Hey there, good evening and welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show. This is a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So here we are, Sunday night, Ben's album challenge, and I do apologize, it will be coming out late. I had a very busy day and just couldn't get to it. I could have gotten to it in time, but my stomach needed to be taken care of first, and I never argue with my stomach. Okay, so here we go. This album, Ben gave this to me, of course, last week. It's called Matters Lake. They're an Australian band, Australian progressive rock band. The album is called Butterfly Farm, and I believe I wrote it down, but I kind of erased it a bit. So I think it was 1972 or 73. I could be wrong, but I think that's what he said. Or that's what I read, sorry. 10 tracks plus 2 on this particular version. There was 2 additional live tracks. I did listen to it once from the connection he gave me on my email, but then I found another connection on the internet and I listened to that. There's 2 additional live tracks on it as well. So what can we say about this band? They're supposedly a progressive rock band, and there are some progressive elements here. Certainly the album cover has some progressive elements to it, but it also has some psychedelic elements to it. The album overall has a little bit of a mixture of a lot of genres here. I see some, it's a bit of a rocking album, has some some rock, like party kind of rocking sounds to it in places. Has lots of psychedelia sound to it, I think. Quite a bit of that as well. And there are some prog elements here, but however, I don't think it's a prog, like this isn't a hardcore prog album. It has prog elements to it, but I wouldn't call this a prog album, although there are enough prog elements on here that if you want to call it that, you're welcome to it. Okay, so Ben always likes me to tell my favorite track, and I have my favorite track for this particular album is Mothership, which is the number 2 track. I gave that a 7. I liked it. It was pretty good. Bit of a subdued opening on that song. Maybe that's why I've got prog in my brain there. Okay, so it starts off, there's also a couple of things more before I get into the tracks. The vocalist is very kind of a bluesy, raspy kind of voice to his sound, which probably gives it that kind of bluesy party rock atmosphere sound to the music. He's also pretty strong voice too. Like he's not hidden in the background like you get with some of these not so well-known prog bands where the vocalist is kind of in the background a bit. There's none of that going on here. I think he's pretty good. Guitar is pretty solid. Keyboards are pretty solid. Drums are pretty solid. Everybody's pretty solid. I don't see, as we would say, any weak sisters here. There's no outstanding kind of, whoa, what is that? Wow, that's amazing. There's none of that on this album. It's just a really solid album. That's pretty much all I can say. Okay, so having done a kind of overview of the album, do a little bit on the tracks. Of course, the vocals, as I said, kind of raspy on the... Sorry, very tired today again. Vocals are very kind of raspy on this particular track, more so than a lot of the other tracks. There's a heavier element to the music here. And I find the guitar on this, at least with the guitar solo, very rocky. Like it's a very kind of hard rockish sound to it. The next song called Mothership is subdued. It opens with this kind of subdued synthesizer bit. Then it gets kind of rocking and does have quite a bit of party rock atmosphere to it. I feel that, like, it's a pretty rocking song, I think, but it does have that. It's a bit of a longer track, so it does have a bit of a proggy sound to it in places. Booze Blues is the next one. This is definitely a kind of a party rock anthem. There's a couple of female vocalists in here that really add to that element. So they're doing the repeated chorus repeat over and over again that give it that kind of party rock sound to it. I think this is, definitely, and there are some keyboards at the beginning too, which aren't too bad. Solid song. Ride On Fast, keyboard opening, some drum fills in here, little bits of drum fills, they like to add them in. Heavy guitar riffing, of course, and some keys and synthesizers to give the song that kind of proggy feel to it. And this song, I think more than most of the songs on the album, have that real psychedelic feel to it in certain spots of the album, the song, sorry. The next song, One Size and the Moon, kind of a pretty strong guitar riffing and some kind of party rock elements here as well. I find this the vocal rasping is strong on this tune as well. And then most of the rest of the songs, Butterfly Farm has that Hammond organ opening and very harmonic parts to the song as well. Slack Alice, nice kind of an acoustic guitar. I think this has an acoustic guitar sound to it, and then just continues along that trend. And the rest of the three songs on here have their proggy moments. Some heavy bass on the last song, I Get High, Single Inside, so it's got this heavy bass riff and some heavy rock track to it as well. The second last song, the number 9 song, It's All in Your Head, that's a kind of a poppy number. This is one of the more poppy songs on the album. It may be the most poppy song on the album. And then you got Backseat Song. Is that what it's called? I think that's it. Backseat Song. Kind of mild, heavy guitar bits on it with some nice guitar bits too, like some pretty strong bits. But overall, I would say this album goes from poppy through some kind of bluesy to some psychedelic parts to their album, and then some prog overlay, like kind of a prog overlay to it. But I wouldn't call this a prog album. I would call this a party rock album. A party rock album with some psychedelia and some heavy rock parts to it, with a little bit of prog in there. That's what I would call it, So, but I don't get to label these things. I just get to give you my opinion. And that's just as well, because I'm sure that other people hear this album completely different. But a solid album nevertheless. I think Ben's picked yet another solid album from another Australian band, which is good because I'm learning a lot about the music over there. Starting to get a kind of a feel for what's going on. Well, at least what was going on in Australia. I assume that different stuff is going on there now, but yeah, I liked it. I think this band also has another album. There, actually 2 more albums, if I read correctly. They have it. Sorry, this is the second album. They also have a debut album, and I think after they've been in different incarnations touring about, doing different things with different time periods, taking time off and then coming back and touring a bit and then taking time off. And they did a lot of that. They did release another album in the turn of the century, after the turn of the centuries, or sometime like 38 or 39 years after their last album. I didn't listen to any of that, so I can't tell you anything about it, other than they did release another album. So they've got 3, I believe, in their catalog. Anyways, interesting listen. I suggest, it's not so easy to find out there. You got to kind of put in Matters Lake, Butterfly Farm, or you can look up Matters Lake and you'll find it in Wikipedia, which will give you the list of the albums, and then you can put those in, and maybe you'll be able to find something. I found it in a kind of a way that I sometimes find it. I'll punch it in, it'll give me the list of the tracks. I always do the same thing. I punch in the album, or actually I punch in the group name, then I punch in the album, so I'll put in Matters Lake, Butterfly Farm, and then I'll ask full album, and it'll give me a list of the tracks on it, and then hitting each track will then give me a choice of whether I want to listen to it on Spotify, or if I want to listen to it on iTunes, or if I want to listen to it on YouTube. I usually choose the YouTube. Sometimes what happens is you listen to a couple tracks and then it starts giving you all those tracks and you don't have to go back. Didn't do that this time. I eventually had to go back to Ben's connection that he sent me on email to get most of what I wanted to listen to. So anyways, it was fun. It's another Sunday night fun show. This one, I think maybe I could have got a little more in depth with it if I could have listened to it one more time, but I've just been so busy and tired today, I just didn't get that third listen into it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this, so if you did, please like and subscribe. It's much appreciated, and we'll be back next Sunday night with yet another album for Ben's Album Challenge. So take care. We'll see you later. Bye.